Good evening, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. This is Rich again, back for your third and final video blog of the night for Monday, September 15, 2014, around 8 p.m. in Billerica, Massachusetts. It's now nightfall, and it's going to be a cool night. Some news to report. It's Happy National Cheeseburger Day in the United States of America. And also 49 years ago today, the classic TV science fiction show Lost in Space made its debut on CBS, and it lasted 3 seasons on CBS. And also 28 years ago today, the classic game show Hollywood Squares was revived in syndication, hosted by John Davison, and this version of Hollywood Squares had 3 seasons in syndication, and it was a pretty good revival of Hollywood Squares, but it bounced around a lot in Boston. The first season was of Hollywood Squares. The syndicated revival was on WCVB Channel 5, and then it moved to WHDH-TV 7 for a year, and then it ended. The last season was on Fox 25 in Boston. And the reruns were shown on USA Network for about 4 years, but it hasn't been shown since. And that's about it on the news. My third and final video blog of the night is about the late great sports announcer Jack Buck. Jack Buck was on broadcasting sports for over 45 years. He was associated because of his St. Louis Cardinals announcer on the radio and television on and off from 1954 through 2001. He also did baseball and football on the radio. Jack Buck was born in Holyoke, Massachusetts, and when he was younger, he grew up a Red Sox fan. He listened to some of the games on the radio, and he actually went to a Fenway Park a few times as a kid. His family moved to Cleveland, Ohio when he was in the teenage years, and he went to high school around in the Cleveland area. He served in the United States Army in World War II. He became a corporal, and then after serving our country in World War II, Jack Buck went to college at Ohio State University, and during the time he was at Ohio State University, he was the play-by-play announcer of the Ohio State basketball team. And after graduating from college, he did minor league baseball games. He did it for the Columbus Redbirds, was a AAA affiliate of the Cardinals, and the Rochester Red Wings. In 1954, Jack Buck made the big time, calling St. Louis Cardinals games on KMOX radio in 1954, and for the next 48 years, on and off, he had an association with the St. Louis Cardinals, calling their games on the radio and the television. Some of the partners he had was Harry Carey and Mike Shannon and his own son, Joe Buck. And during the time with he doing the Cardinals, his famous tagline is, "That's a winner." And also, during this time as well, Jack got national recognition in 1960. He left the Cardinals on the radio for a year to do the ABC TV network Major League Baseball Game of the Week. He was there for 1 year, and he also did the AFL games for ABC for 1960 through 1963. And also, after that, Jack Buck went to CBS to call NFL games on television. He was the play-by-play announcer for 2 years. He was a play-by-play announcer for Chicago Bears games, and then he became announcer for Dallas Cowboys games in 1968. CBS stopped doing having announcers just cover one team for NFL games, so they did regional coverage. He was an announcer for them until 1974, and he called Super Bowl IV on CBS television with Pat Summerall, and also he did NFL games on the radio for CBS Radio Sports, Monday Night Football for many, many years. He called 17 Super Bowls on the radio for CBS Radio Sports. And also Jack Buck called other sports as well during this time as well. He called St. Louis Hawks basketball games when the Hawks were in St. Louis. He was first season of St. Louis Blues hockey from the National Hockey League in 1967-68, and he also called the Rochester Royals basketball games on the radio when they were in Rochester, New York back in the 50s. And he also called boxing and pro wrestling matches, so Jack's done a lot of stuff. And from 1975 through 1977, Jack worked for NBC Sports, calling the Major League Baseball game of the week and doing some NFL regional games on NBC Sports. But like Jack still had the association with being the radio voice of the Cardinals on KMOX radio, and he had an on-again, off-again relationship with them for years. But he's remembered for the Cardinals games. In the 80s, Jack did Major League Baseball games for CBS Radio Sports. He called several World Series games and the League Championship Series and the All-Star game and the Major League Baseball Radio Game of the Week for CBS, and he spent a lot of time not doing Cardinals games and stuff. Here's some of the most famous home run calls he had during that era. Smith corks one. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy, folks. The Cardinals win by the score of 5-4 by the home run by the Wizard. And also, he called the home run, I don't believe what I just saw, from Kirk Gibson's home run in the 1988 World Series. And in 1990, Jack Buck became the lead voice of the Major League Baseball on CBS, and his partner was Tim McCarver. Jack was the voice of the lead announcer for MLB on CBS for 1990 and 1991. He called 2 World Series games, the National League Championship Series and All-Star game, plus a selected Major League Baseball Game of the Week game on CBS. But he wasn't that great. CBS really didn't really like him as a play-by-play announcer, so he was dropped after the 1991 season, and he never appeared on national television again calling Major League Baseball games or NFL games. He was basically on the radio for doing Cardinals games and stuff. And by the mid-1990s, Jack reduced his schedule for Cardinals games to just 2 home games because he was suffering from a lot of ailments like diabetes, Parkinson's, cataracts. He had a pacemaker and stuff, and Parkinson's, and he was surely having failed health, and he grew considerably weak, but he still did the games for the Cardinals. In 2001, during September 11 attacks, he wrote a poem, the first baseball game back after the September 11 attacks, which canceled Major League Baseball games for a week. He said a poem, and he was in thrilled condition, and he got a standing ovation for that. That was one of his last public appearances. And Jack Buck passed away in 2002 due to heart problems and his various ailments, and he's probably goes down as one of the best play-by-play announcers of all time. Jack Buck's in the Baseball Hall of Fame in the broadcasting lane, and he also is in Pro Football Hall of Fame, winning the Pete Rozelle Award for broadcasting excellence, and he's in the St. Louis Hall of Fame and other Hall of Fames. He was so popular that in the early 60s he hosted a public affairs show on KMOX radio called At Your Service, which was a public service thing, and it was real popular, and he's been well known. His son Joe Buck is the play-by-play voice of Fox Sports, and he started his career working alongside with his father Jack on St. Louis Cardinals broadcasts on television and the radio. And Jack's one of only a handful of men to call a World Series game and a Super Bowl on network television. The other ones besides Jack is his son Joe, Ray Scott, Dick Enberg, and Al Michaels, and Kirk Audi. And that's about it for that. Hope you enjoyed to like these blogs. I'll be back tomorrow for at least 3 to 6 more video blogs. One of the subjects tomorrow will be the top 10 best, greatest WCW/NWA World Championships champions of all time. I'm going to list the top 10 of them of all time. And the other 2 video blogs I won't mention into the last Facebook post. And look for later on in the week, top 10 greatest WWE champions of all time, top 10 greatest NWA, WCW, US champions of all time, and the top 10 greatest intercontinental champions of all time. Maybe I'll do the tag team champions of NWA, WCW, and WWE this weekend. Depends how I feel. Great feedback on these video blogs. And don't forget, if you want a shout out, just private message me, and I'll shout it out for you. And if there's a subject or a topic you want me to talk about, I'll do it, except if it's politics, personal things, love, sex, your relationships. Don't want to hear it. Okay? Good night, everybody.